Hi. Okay, good. All right, so I'm here to talk to you today about job placement. I've stressed some things about this, like at the tail end of certain tech talks recently, and I've had private conversations with people who are trying to get jobs and that sort of thing. But I want something permanently on record that will help all of you, but also be used in the future for people in terms of getting jobs. This is motivated by a couple different things. First of all, we're signing people at the rate of about 3 a week for the school, which is fantastic. But we're graduating, i.e., out the door and employed, about one and a quarter a week on average. It doesn't work. Build up a backlog, and people aren't achieving what they want to do as fast as possible. So we know how to get people hired, but I want to be able to give a little more specifics on that and illustrate what I've used in the past that's successful for me and what our successful graduates who've gone on to get hired have been doing. So that's the subject of today's Tech Talk. It's all about you getting hired, which is an awesome thing. And again, it doesn't apply 100% to everyone. I do know that occasionally we have students that are employees of a company and the company sponsored them being here so they can upgrade to a different position. They're hired already. They've got a job. They're good. The vast majority, though, that's why they're doing this, is they want to move into the industry, right? And I guess the big picture thing, before we get into any specifics, is that part of the reason we do so well on getting people hired is that it's my personal belief, reality, point of view that everyone can get hired. And that may sound like a really trite little thing. Great, so you think that, big deal. I actually think that's really important. If that's my personal point of view, my reality, what I know to be true, that actually infuses every single action I take in working with the student to get hired. I know you can get hired. I know it to the core of my being. And part of the reason I stress that is because while I'll go through a bunch of specific implementation things you can do in terms of job search, that's actually senior to all of them. Knowing you'll get a job. Knowing that you will get hired. It's really important. But I recognize the fact that that's pretty difficult if you've never gotten hired. I've gotten hired many, many times in this industry, so great, Eric, that's awesome. But I want to clarify, my point of view isn't that I can get hired. It's that you can. That a graduate of our school absolutely can get hired. Now, the estimation of the amount of effort needed to get that done, that's probably the point where students have fallen down a little bit. And I'm here to tell you, it can be a big amount of effort that's needed to get hired. It's a lot of work. Every once in a while you hear these really awesome happy path stories about a guy who had 3 different job offers before he even graduated from the school. And in fact, that does happen. And it's pretty cool, and we all go, yay, that's great. But that isn't the typical story. The typical story is a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, sometimes 2 months out, and then the guy's got the job. It can take 2 months to get that job. You will, though, if you do what we work with you on and if you refuse to give up. So there's that pep speech, whatever, pep talk, whatever you want to call it, right? Now, some specifics, okay? So students are taking an average of 2 months to get employed, and that's way too long. It's way too long for you guys, because I know you want to be earning money as soon as possible, and it's too late for us. It just takes too long for us. Hence this talk and all the effort we put into a job placement director who's local and a job placement director who's remote. We have a lot of attention on this area, and we're going to handle it. Okay. Now, the live project, I want to address that. That is definitely something that should go on your resume, and especially as we've been putting together the learning management system, as this current live project team is seeing, there's a very real product to be worked on that reflects very real world usage, and for which you were responsible to a real product owner, me. And it's a lot of fun. It's challenging, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. Yeah. And it is real world. There's no textbook aspect to this, is there?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So look forward to your live project. It'll be a lot of fun, and particularly as we build this and a couple of other internal products that we've got in the works, you're going to have a sustained project that will take several months to develop, so you can hook in for your 2 weeks or whatever, and really get some good work done, but be part of a real thing. We're really proud of how this live project program is working. That goes on your resume. And if you have any questions about the best way to present it, see the job placement director. If he's got questions about it, you can see me. I want that to be prominently featured because it is real world experience that will be invaluable to you. Okay, you can start the job placement course at any point in the program. I do want to stress that. The job placement course, I'm pretty proud of it. It's got It's got a lot of successful actions that we've worked out from over the years of getting people hired, myself getting hired. It's really good data. The fact is that while you can start it at any point in the program, recognize that in terms of putting yourself out on the market and really getting good solid bites back and actually getting hired, it's really past the point of about Python on the course that you're really going to start to get some traction. Unless you've got prior experience and what you're doing is some sort of like refurbish your skill set and get all the modern tools under your belt, that kind of thing, you might have a chance of getting hired before that. But really, what about Python and then C# and then live project? That section of time in there, that's when it's really real to be able to put on your resume and talk intelligently about what you know and what you've done. It's good to get started a bit before that because of some of the study involved on the job placement course, some of the practice skills you'll need, some of the stuff to put together a resume. In terms of putting it out the door, my recommendation is, unless you've got a lot of back history, just get through Python, or at least through enough of Python that you like, you know what, if I got a job offer right now today, I feel like I could make it go right on the job, I'd be like, whoa, this is wild, but I think I can handle it. Sure, throw your resume out. And that way, if you do get interviewed, you'll go into it with that certainty, that confidence. Like, okay, I'm not a graduate yet. There's a lot more I could learn. But if push came to shove, I'd figure it out. And that will just be present in every phone conversation you have with a potential employer, in any in-person interview. And by the way, that doesn't apply to that specific point of what's the earliest point at which you want to put out your resume. That applies all the way through. One of the things you should be looking for is, to what degree am I going to be able to, like, genuinely, for myself, say to another person, a hiring manager, yeah, I can figure that out, and have it be true for you. If it isn't, your job placement director is there to help you with that. I'm here to help you with that. And we have specific tools to make it so that you're not fooling yourself. You're like, okay, I'm not going to pretend I won't be like freaked out and like nearly overwhelmed, but yeah, I can actually figure anything out that I need to. When you're at that point, the job search goes extremely well. If you're not, well, that comes through, you see. The person you're looking to talk to about the job, they'll sense that. They will absolutely know that confidence, that certainty isn't there. So that's another point. Okay, another thing to stress. Some people get a yes on their very first job application. Wow, that's awesome. It's totally the exception to the rule. Most people get 5, 10, or 15 or more no's, or completely no communication or response back before they get the yes. So I'm reminded of what it's like when you're growing up and you're in high school and you want to ask another person out, and how nerve-wracking that is, and how that no can just annihilate you. Not just me, so it didn't happen. Okay, right. Well, that happened for me. Okay, and the fact of the matter is, you get some experience under your belt. You know you're not going to die. It's like, okay, you can put yourself out there and you can like be brave and ask somebody something, but that first time doesn't feel that way, and we recognize that. I recognize that. The first time you put yourself out to try to get one of these jobs, it can be nerve-wracking. Not true for everyone, but it's true for most people. It can be nerve-wracking. This is part of why we designed the job placement course and have a dedicated job placement director, is because we can't guarantee we can take that away from you permanently, like to totally handle that. Some of that's just going to handle after 3, 4, 5 different jobs and interviews, and you're like, wow, I'm really doing this. I'm 3 years in, and man, I'm a professional software developer. That's a typical story for people. But the fact is, you can drill the things that cause a lot of stress for you over and over and over and over again, to the point where some of that does start to diminish. And it's one of the things I was actually going to stress at the end, but I'll just a little teaser on it now. We're going to get into some detail on the fact that when you're at the point where you're graduated and you're just like, all you're about is the job, we want you doing that as if it's a job. Like 5 days a week, that's all you're doing. And one of the questions would be, what the heck do you do to fill up 5 days a week, 8 hours a day on job search? One of the things you can be doing is you can be drilling over and over again tough, challenging interview questions, drilling a phone interview, drilling an in-person interview, getting up at the whiteboard in front of someone who's asking typical questions you might be asked, and over again getting just drilled on these things so that nervousness just starts to go down. And again, more on that in a minute. But the point is, you're going to hear no. Just know that it's going to occur, cowboy up and go, okay, I'm going to get told no a lot. All right, par for the course. It is true that there are more jobs than there are people in this field, and that's wonderful. But it doesn't mean that every job's for you. It doesn't mean you're going to get that perfect one right out of the gate. And I'm stressing this because that's been one of the points of analysis on this, is that people start to get defeated a little bit. You hear no 3, 4, 5 times. Look, the best among us are going to get frustrated. I don't like that. That stinks. When I'm going out for a contract, it's a really sweet deal. I'm like, that fits everything I need. When I don't get it, I'm not doing cartwheels. I'm not super happy. But I can deal with it and I can move on. And I'm just asking you to know that it could be like that for you, and just start to get a little bit of a thick skin and handle it. Okay, another factor. Some companies, this is funny, I was going to say, some companies don't move as fast as you would like. Jack and I have discovered this during the entire time we've built this school. You may have noticed that Jack and I are willing to move very, very fast and change things very, very quickly. Some of you have been around for a few months or longer, some of you are employees. We will reinvent this company on a dime. Boom, done. We move very quickly. It's part of why we've gone from, 9 students last July to 130 now, right? We have yet to find a business partner, a company that we're working with in any capacity, who moves at even close to the rate we do or want to. And we just, what are you going to do? You just deal with it. Okay, we're going to be moving faster than they want to. The same can be true for you when you're on the job search. Most of you are going to want it to happen like that. And why not? There's all the right reasons for it. The thing about it is that when you're applying for your job, again, we want you to look at it like it is your job, and that's what you're doing all day long. And for you, you put something out there on a Monday, right, in terms of some sort of a reach for a job. Tuesday afternoon, you're like, I wonder what happened on that. How's that doing, right? It's front of mind for you, and is all the time when you're in that job search. It's not front of mind for that hiring manager at the other end. He's doing 19 different things. And so you have to know that that's their reality. And part of it is, don't take it personal. Some companies just move very slowly in their job search. It's right for them. That's fine. I like the companies that move very quickly. It's just me. But just know that many of them like that. And it's not an indication that you went to the bottom of the stack necessarily, or that you went to the round file or whatever. It's just that they move slowly. Be prepared for it. And the thing about it, one of the reasons I stress this, is you may put yourself out there, with a company like that, and you throw in a resume, and after a week and a half, and you've finally forgotten about them, 2 weeks or longer, you get an email back. You're like, oh wow, I'd forgotten about Acme, and I thought they would utterly ignore me. And then you respond, okay, cool, and then another week later, hey, we'd like to do a phone interview. You're like, really? Thanks, guys. It's been 3.5 weeks, right? And then you do the phone interview, and you don't hear nothing for 2 weeks. And then finally, they get a call, and they went with someone else. It's been 5.5 weeks. Now, that could be incredibly demoralizing. One of the things that can diminish that is if you were working on 20 other different things during those 5.5 weeks, and you weren't putting, I know it's a cliche, like putting all your eggs in one basket, getting your hopes up about that job. And this is another thing. Okay, here's a real important point when I've been wanting to get a job, right? If I've got one that's sticking, like I really want that gig, and it's sticking, and I expected to hear back from it the day before yesterday, and I still haven't heard anything, I do get frustrated. But what I've found unsticks that faster than anything is dropping my attention off of it and just going full bore on 5 or 10 or 15 other job applications. Just completely ignoring that for a minute and pulling my attention away from it and going, okay, good, all right, bam, 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 5 different resumes out the door. And then I'll get a bite from one of them, and I'm working on this, and all of a sudden, bam, that pops. Like, oh, wow. I don't know how it works. I don't care. I know it does work in my experience. So if you find one of these things, one single job application, it's like the perfect employer, it's got the great benefits, it's right on your side of town, it's near public transport, whatever it is that for you is like, man, wouldn't that be great? I really want that. Man, I really want that. And it's sticking. And you're not getting responses back. And you feel like, man, if I nudge these people one more time, they're going to be like, write this guy off. He's annoying. Like, chill. And just put your attention on some other job applications. Genuinely. Not like, how's that doing over there? No. Just dive into it. That will help. It'll help your sanity, too, because you won't be stuck on that one thing. Okay, good. There's that. Now, another key, and you've kind of caught this runs like a thread through most of what I've said here. Persistence is actually the key to getting the job. It isn't like, does my resume look perfect? It isn't, have I got the exact right, presentation on my resume of whatever live or real projects I've done. It isn't, oh man, is my skill set exactly right for the jobs? That isn't it. The key is persistence. The key is that never giving up. The key is when you get knocked down, you're like, okay, well that sucks. Maybe I need to take a walk, but all right, what do I do now? How do I outcreate that? How do I make it so that doesn't define how this job search is going for me? I don't know any other way to say it, but the reason I'm positive there's a job out there for you is because I know that every single person who refused to stop, they got a job. Every single one. And honestly, where we find that someone's job search has really stuck and it's taken a long time, when you really get in communication with them, you find out that on some level they kind of gave up a little bit several weeks back. They kind of gave up a little bit. And what they're really giving up on is themselves. That's the thing. It isn't, well, the right job isn't on the market, and the right thing isn't there. Maybe people aren't hiring as many junior developers right now. Maybe it's a seasonal thing, Maybe after the new year. It's not it. It's that they went, oh. And they lost that drive and that purpose a little bit inside. That's actually the determining factor. And as an illustration of that, right, I got the notes on this one written down because I want to get the exact sequence right, because this was really, really cool, okay? This happened recently, so some of you may know who I'm talking about. We had one of our graduates that got to, a lead for a job. He applied for this job. He emailed 4 different people at the company, right? He got no response. He found the CIO, the Chief Information Officer, on LinkedIn. He emailed that guy directly. And he finally got told, listen, it looks like you're not going to be hired. Sorry, you're not getting responses from the other people in my company. Looks like you're not going to get hired. But what happened is, that guy, that Chief Information Officer, for whatever reason, I'd have to ask him, I know him, right? For whatever reason, he went, and he sent an internal email saying to some of the hiring people, hey, listen, I just talked to so-and-so, and this is what I told him, which is, looks like you're not getting hired, you might want to look elsewhere. This is what I told him. They called him. They called the student. They called the student. Now, you can look at that as like serendipity, or, they had met in person before, so maybe there's a connection or whatever. What it really is tenacity and the refusal to give up. That's not the normal route to get a job. The normal route is you look for the ad on Craigslist or Dice or whatever, and you send your resume in, or you're working with a recruiter and you work directly with him and you say, how's that job, sir? Are you going to hear anything back from the gig? Am I going to get that? That's the effect kind of viewpoint. Like, I hope this works out. I'm not in control of it. No, that's him going, I just got to find some way that I can feel like I can do something about this. I emailed 4 different people, I'm not getting nothing. What about bumping all the way above them and just directly emailing the guy at the top of the pyramid? Well done. And he got the job. So whether that's a right action or a wrong action in every single instance isn't the point. There are some companies that if you do that, they might get tweaked. They're like, excuse me, this is going to bypass all the people down below me. He took that risk. It worked out for him. I'm the guy that would take that risk. So I really admired what he did. So it's just an illustration of the fact that tenacity is absolutely the senior thing in this entire job search. Above all of the arrangement of anything else, it's tenacity. Okay, so here's another one. I recently found out that not many of our job applicants, when they send a resume in, are following up with a phone call. I know I put it in the job placement course. And the reason I did is because I always do that. I always do that. I can't tell you how many times the resume went in the wrong email address, or the guy just literally didn't see it. And he goes, oh, how did I miss that? And then finds my email, my resume. You follow up with a phone call, even if it's a voicemail. Here's the thing: is it's the volume of outgoing communication, which is an indication of how tenacious you are. You talk about tenacity, right? It's the volume of outgoing communication from you that really makes a difference in this. And that's why sitting and waiting for that right call to come back on that exact right job isn't the way to do it. Then it isn't communication emanating from you. It's you being hungry for communication. It's you being like, man, I really hope I get that call. I really hope that recruiter, man, he said it was going to be 3 days. It's been a week. Man, I really hope I get. No, that's not you putting communication out. That's you waiting for communication to come in. And that never works. It just doesn't work in life, but it doesn't work on a job search. When in doubt, communicate. When in doubt, throw out another resume. When in doubt, do make the phone call to nudge the recruiter. Do make the phone call to nudge the hiring manager. Always err on the side of communicating, because it's not really an error. So there's that. All right, be creative in your job search. This can mean a lot of things. It can mean that fellow who decided to, jump up the organization chart several spots and email the chief information officer. Well done, It can also mean going to a meetup for, F#, which is one of the languages that works inside the .NET framework, but not many people use. Why? Who knows who you're going to meet there? One thing I'll tell you, you're meeting somebody who thinks outside the box because nobody else will use an F#, right? But the point is to, literally, if you find yourself at a standstill, I literally don't know what to do next, see Danny as your, the job placement director, or just come up on your own with where do I get in front of someone to talk? I don't care if they're an employee decision, if they make the decision for employment or not. Where do I get in front of other developers, people in this industry? How can I actually just connect with other people, right? And if you get backed off on that, that's exactly why to do it. If the idea of just showing up unannounced on one of these meetups or some kind of industry meeting of some sort makes you nervous, then you should absolutely do it, because that's the only way that'll ever break and get better for you. And it does matter. It absolutely matters. When I started the school, part of the reason we were able to do well right off the bat is because I didn't really do this on purpose, but we needed to promote the school. And I went, oh, LinkedIn. And I looked, and I had 850 industry contacts on my LinkedIn. It was like, ooh, Eric's awesome. I didn't even know. I wasn't doing it to do it. It built up over time. But because it was there, when I would send a blast out to all 850, the effect was instant. It was instant. People were like, oh, wow, I didn't know you were doing this. I didn't know it grew that way. That's great, right? That wouldn't have happened if I didn't, all the time in life, have the philosophy of how can I meet another person and establish a genuine communication? A really, really good line. How do I do that, right? If you're not good at that, that's why to start. That's why to do it. It isn't the only way you're going to get the job. But do you care which way it is that gets you the job eventually? Whether it's the traditional standard line in, or it's jumping up the organization chart, or it's you went to robotics meetup because you kind of like that stuff anyway, and you're not ever going to program for robots, but man, isn't that cool stuff? And then you meet a guy that happens to work for Intel, highly placed, and he's a fanatic about it too, and boom, 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 oh, trade cards or phone numbers, you're there. You're there. You don't know where these connections are going to happen, but I'll tell you one thing, the answer is not to withdraw and not communicate. The answer is to put yourself out there and get in places where you can find that person that you have a genuine connection with, right? Doesn't matter if they're, like I said, doesn't matter if they're the hiring manager. They're another person and they're somehow connected to this industry. Why would you not want to know them? That's my point of view. Okay, enough on that. Now here, let's get to the thing about treating the job search like it's a job. What else are you going to do all day? You need to get a job. Are you going to do something during your workday that isn't related to getting a job? And then be upset that you're not getting a job? Part of this I get a little bit unreasonable on, because during the brief periods where I'm in between a contract, man, I'm 12 hours a day on that. I'm part of it is that when you get to be a senior level developer and you're making really good money, you're a down day is going to cost me $500 to $800. I am not going to have a down day. You won't do it. And so you're just pushing it. That's how it should be for you guys. And if it isn't, look at that really closely. Why are you not attacking the process of getting a job with the same tenacity and intention that you would the job you want to get? When you don't have to prove it to anybody, you're not responsible to a boss, you're not responsible to anyone except for you and the job placement director, right? But you're not really, ultimately you're just responsible to you. Why would you not be putting everything you have into it? And only if you're doing that, if you know you're putting everything into it and it's still not working, can you then, in all honesty and with integrity, go to the job placement director, man, this isn't working. This isn't working. Okay, that's enough of rant, okay? Treat your job search like it's a full-time job. If you've been on a schedule while you were going to school where you were here at 9:30 and then you left at 4:30 and you get done with the program and you're on your job search and suddenly you're only here 2 days a week, no. It's just not going to work. It's not how we designed the program, first of all. And we designed the program to be effective, and it is, if you follow it. But the biggest part of it is, all that tells me is you're not applying the same intention level to getting the job as you were to getting through your studies. And in that employers will pick that up. The other part of it is that if you're here and you're running into anything on the job search, we find out about it within 3 minutes because you raise your hand and go to me or Danny or whoever and go, man, I just got this, I got this test that they want to do for this job, and I'm like, it's in Java, and I'm like, I'm trying to study it, but I don't know what to do. You know how quickly we'll jump all over that and help you? I got to tell you, the pride we have in the fact that we have 100% job placement cannot be expressed. It's huge for us, which is part of the reason I'm taking this time right now, by the way. It matters to us so much. But we know that ultimately none of that is actually, we can't get you hired. We can't be the one that does, it just doesn't work. What gets you hired is you. It's the only person that can do it. The degree of help we can provide you is incredible. Ask anybody who's gotten hired. They will tell you, like, we will bend over backwards to help you. But none of that matters if you aren't the one driving the job search. And if I see that you're in here 2 days a week and you're not in very good communication with the job placement director, I know you're not driving your job search. And we'll do it by bypassing you and saying, hey, hi, scruff of the neck, come into the building, sit down, work. And we've done it, haven't we, Danny?
Yeah.
We'll do it. And we'll do it. But at that point, we're really doing it because of pride for the school. Not because that individual has shown us that he really deserves that kind of care and attention. But we're going to do it anyway. Don't be the person we have to do that with. Why? Why be that guy? Be the guy that just attacks him. I remember the guy, Matt Barge, last year comes in from Texas, right? He wanted to make sure. This guy was so driven. He took 2 or 3 weeks to find a place to live, and finally he made it go right. He lived on that block right above the hotel. Like, he lived 200 feet away from the school. And he was down here. How many times would he be here before we arrived? Almost every day. And he'd leave at 9 at night. And there were ups and downs for him. It was a wild ride. But at the end, in that final week, he was juggling 5 different job offers. I keep saying job officer. We need to change your title. Your title's not job officer, right? So he had 3 here in Oregon and 2 in Texas, where he's from. And went back and forth between them, the combination of like the different benefits and the wage and all that, and finally got an $80,000 a year job as a mobile app developer for a huge auto dealership down in San Antonio. And that final week was like, oh wow, this guy's just king of the world. But I'll tell you, the work he put in 5 weeks before, when his job interviews were going horribly, and he felt so demoralized after those things. He did a phone interview once where I saw him afterwards, and he was just like shell-shocked. Like, that was horrible. And by the way, I have done more than my share of really awful phone interviews where I felt like a rank amateur. Like, I got questions where I went, I have no idea what that is or what you just said. It's horrible. I'm just talking personally now. There are very few things that really grab a hold of me and you go crank like that. I have to go take a walk afterwards, right? And he was like that. He had to. And he would go take his walk, and then we'd sit down and go over it in detail. And then he would be like, okay, good. All right, so drill me on that question. Okay, good. Because that one kicked my butt on the phone interview. Drill me on that. And so I'd write all up, send it to him with somebody, and he'd drill it. So his one successful week of juggling 5 different job offers, the hard work was done 4 or 5 weeks before, and I watched him do it. So here's the thing is, I know this works. I know it works. Now, there may be people in this room who are who are listening and watching that this isn't their deal, and they're going on the job search thing and they're doing everything they're supposed to do and it's working really well. It's a smaller maybe set of the student body that I'm maybe addressing here. But many of you aren't even up to that point yet where you'll be doing the job search. For you, just file under, okay, good. There's lessons that other people learned that I don't need to learn the hard way. Cool. All right. Here's a fun one. Who here does not have a Facebook account? That's what I figured. Oh, really? Okay, good. This might be good for you in the job search. That's good. We had one. For those of you watching from home, we had one. Okay. The point is that hiring managers fairly often will look at your social media. And if your social media doesn't represent you well, don't pretend that's not going to affect the hiring decision. If they look on there and they see your Jägermeister, challenge that you had on a Wednesday night, or they see you, with the mother of all bongs or whatever, don't pretend that isn't going to matter. That part of your life exists in some sort of vacuum. We are, as you guys know, because you're computer programmers now, you can find out anything you want. You can delve into anything. We are a connected world now. So, look, your private business is your private business. I really don't care one way or the other. But in terms of job search, just know that that's true, and know that they will look. More and more and more they will look. And you see high-profile stories about it, and people who are up for a C-level job at big companies that they found blah, blah, blah on the guy's Twitter account, and that job offer got rescinded. It can and will happen, and you'll never know. You'll never know. And on a related note, if the email address that you're sending job applications out on is Bongmaster1995, you see some of these, you're like Skeletor rocks, or really. File that not hired at the.com. You're not. That matters. That kind of stuff matters. It's just unprofessional. That's all there is to it. And you can like that or not like that. Doesn't matter. To be a little more kind about that, the thing I'm asking you to do in all of this actually is to put yourself in the position, the point of view of that hiring manager, in the point of view of that senior level developer who got handed a packet of resumes and needs to sort out who they're actually going to bring in. Put yourself in his shoes. How is he going to see things? And that's part of why you wouldn't want to have those kind of email addresses. Change it. You can get a really nice humdrum one and link it up to your Gmail account, and it works just fine, so it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, now here's some more specific doingnesses, actual practical things you can do that'll help, right? When you're on the HTML course, you'll make yourself a portfolio site. It's on the check sheet. Do it that way. It should be a portfolio for you, and develop it in your spare time and have fun with it. Have it be a little playground where you're practicing your skills. And of course, there are specific check sheet items where you're going to be working on that, where they specifically say the site you made back on your HTML and CSS course, do the following to it, right? And do that. Have it be your little playground and represent yourself well. If it doesn't, if you're I can't get this to look it looks kind of hokey, come see your instructors. They'll help you. That's what we're here for. We want it to look great. We want you to be. We want your site to reflect how well we trained you. So if you're looking at it, you're it isn't quite working. Okay, that's on us. Come see us. We'll help you make it look good, right? Or you can see Grant Stanfley, who is the CSS master, but it's a whole separate story. Thank you for your help, by the way.
Yeah, no problem.
So make your portfolio site. Now, here's the other thing. On the version control course, we ask you to get connected up to GitHub. Do that. And when you connect to GitHub, put your resume on there and link to your portfolio site. And on your portfolio site, link to your GitHub. And on your portfolio site, post a copy of your resume, right? Have all these things just synergistic. They all point to each other, and it's yeah. Now here's another part. Let's say you're done with the program, and you're not hired yet, and you're coming in every day, and you're working on your job search, right? Now, I almost don't want to use that phrase because as I've kind of illustrated throughout this talk, it doesn't just mean I'm searching for a job and I looked on Dice.com or I looked on on Craigslist and I sent off my resumes and I followed up with the ones I already have out there. That's not all there is to job search. It isn't really actually job search because there's still there's further refining your skills so that when you do get that phone call that says, hey, we want a phone interview, or you do get that phone call or email that says, hey, we want an in-person interview, that you are absolutely the most prepared for it you could be. Part of that is to be continually working on like side projects or additional coding things of your own creation. Or if you're stuck, see the job placement director will give you some ideas. But yeah, like let's say you're done with all the courses proper, and you're doing your job search. Literally just look through like different like current technology stacks there are, and go, I kind of want to know what that is. I mean, we kind of touched on Entity Framework a little bit when I did my .NET course. I want to do a deeper dive. .NET tutorials on Entity Framework, and just do one, and then put it on GitHub, and then find another one. We didn't really make many games. There wasn't a lot of games in Eric's curriculum, and that's because I am who I am, and that isn't what I want in my school, right? But I like games. Okay, good. Find a game tutorial, build it, put it on GitHub. The point is that during that job search, if you are continually putting bits of code, really cool things you found, a neat algorithm, full-blown actual projects up on GitHub, they will see that. And you can refer someone to that site when you're in your job interview with a lot of confidence, because it'll show continual and current activity. Do that. Okay, good. So most of you already know about this in terms of what sites to use to put your resume up on. Dice is the one that I always use. I've never used Indeed because I've never needed to, but Indeed is out there, and our graduates tell me that it works really well. So put your resume up on Indeed. There's also a resume section on Craigslist. People do find stuff there, right? So put your resume out there. If you find another place that you can put your resume out and actually get some bites back on it, tell the job placement director, hey, I found this one on my own. You might want to consider having it on the course. We'd love that. All that's going to do is help you and every other student that comes after you. I covered meetups. Okay, so a little more on mock interviews, like when you're actually on the job placement course, and in particular, if you've already finished the school and you're like, man, all I'm doing every day is just working on getting that job. My recommendation, unless you think you're just absolutely smoked light in front of a whiteboard on job interviews, right? Which I'm really good on a whiteboard, and I've done a tremendous number of oral interviews and phone interviews and all that, and I get nervous every time. So if you're that guy, well done. For the rest of us who are humans, if you get any kind of nervous at all about the idea of doing any kind of interview like that, well then do them. Do one every day. It can be as simple as this. You're like, man, I don't feel that hot about my SQL skills in terms of not the coding, but explaining the concepts to somebody. Google the top 50 interview questions for SQL, and then find another student who's also in the same position that you're on, who's done with the program, but working to get a job, and say, here, you go first. And then he asks you the questions, and you're in front of the whiteboard, and you're like, I don't know what to do with that. And you sit down and you both figure it out, and then you sketch it to him, and then you switch around and you ask him the questions, right? You do that often enough, and you're going to find things that add to your knowledge level, which is great. It's cool. You're continuing your learning. But what you're also doing is you're getting very comfortable being asked questions on the fly, and you don't know what the question is going to be by another person. It's so valuable, man. It's so valuable. It's most of the jobs I've gotten, and I've stressed this before, I'm hardly ever the best developer who applies. There's some guys out there that just knock my socks off. We had a kid, Nick Johnson, who came through the school last year. He's just one of the best natural programmers I've ever seen in my life. I was in awe of some of the stuff he could do. But I always get hired. And one of the reasons why is that I'm just really comfortable with just having stuff thrown at me and just kind of figure it out as I go. And it wasn't always that way. The first time was in the Navy. Just to look a little backstory here. I went through 3 months of boot camp, 6 months of electronics school, 6 months of advanced nuclear power school, 6 months of training on an actual nuclear reactor prototype. So what's that? That's 2 years of training. And then you get to the end of all of that, and you have one 30-minute oral exam. And if you don't pass that, don't know what we're going to do with you. I don't know if you'll make it in the program. 2 years of training, and you have this 30-minute oral. You see the pressure, okay? It was incredible. It was like, and I did it, and I made it through. And I can't say it was fun at all. But when you've proven to yourself that you can do that you can deal with that kind of pressure, then you know that about yourself. And there's nothing more important than that, than your own certainty in yourself. And if you're finding yourself lacking that, particularly around the interviewing process, then just drill it. Drill it over and over and over and over and over again. If that was the area that you were stumbling down on, like if you finally got the phone interview and you just made a dog's breakfast of it, I would want to spend the next 4 or 5 days straight just in here going, okay, I don't ever want that to happen again. Danny, can you give, job placement director, can you give me every list or resource you have of sample questions for the technology stack that we have here, and then you and another guy just twin up, and all you do for the next 5 days is just interview each other and stand up on the whiteboard and explain it. And I'm not saying you'll be perfect at it, but it'll be better than that time. You'll get over it. So that's enough. I think I've covered a lot of it, right? You get the big picture, which is it actually is about your viewpoint and your certainty that you can make it, and the tenacity is a senior level thing. Okay, I want to open this up for questions, and I don't know whether or not the guys that are remote can do so. I apologize. If they can maybe email the instructor if they have a specific question. Somebody watching the instructor email address for incoming things.
They can comment on the live stream.
Oh, good. All right, comment on the live stream. Kendra's all over it. She's awesome. Anybody?
Someone needs to open it up so they can see it.
Oh, good. Who can do that? She's stuck. Cole, can you help?
Grant's on it. Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Grant's got it. Thanks. Anybody in the room? Questions? Anything? I don't care. And if there aren't any, I'm fine either way too.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
About going to meetups and things like that. I'm not in industry right now, so what type of business cards do you usually suggest to have
smart.
available?
So, I messed this up last time. Watch. Eric's finally getting professional. For those of you listening at home, what Maria asked about is that she's not in the industry yet, but in terms of going out to meetups and industry events and that sort of thing, what kind of business card would you recommend? I like this question. Let me tell you what Eric would do. I would write up the business card as if I'm already a software developer. And it would just say, Eric Gross, .NET developer, or software developer, and maybe a couple skill sets under there, and I put it out there. See, being a developer isn't and it's true of any job. It isn't that you know the exact right set of technology and now suddenly you can call yourself a developer. It isn't that you went to a certain school and now you can call yourself a developer. You know what it takes to call yourself a developer? Call yourself a developer. That's it. About, at this point, 12 or 13 years ago, I decided I wanted to do some business consulting. And I wanted to do business consulting in the area of sales. I was part of a big building industry society or group back then. I think it was Oregon Remodelers Association. And they were having a convention. And as one of the members, I decided to volunteer at their booth. So I'm down there on a Saturday. And the guy that I was paired up with was the owner of Gary's VacuFlow. Sounds like a corny name. It is. It's a great company. They have built-in or central vacuums. That's what they sell. When it's like a big giant unit that's typically in the garage where it's a giant central vacuum unit, and then there's piping all the way throughout the house. And in any room in the house, you can take your vacuum hose, stick it in, and you can vacuum that room. And then they're pretty cool. They're neat. I'd never heard of them in my life, So I'm sitting here talking to the guy, and I'd had the idea that I could be a business consultant and a sales trainer. And I'm sitting there talking to him, and he talks about his installation technicians, his service technicians. They aren't salesmen. And he says, and it's actually a real problem because there's so many upsells they can do when they get on the job and they're actually installing these units that are quite profitable to us. And we've been giving them quotas to what to do, and they just won't do it. They won't sell. I said, oh. And I got the glimmer of an idea. And I said, have you done sales training with these guys? He said, yeah, there was a guy that was doing some stuff, but he moved out of town 6 months ago, and I haven't done anything since. And I went, before I could think about it long enough to psych myself out and stop myself. I went, oh, well, I'm a sales trainer. I don't have any clients. I don't have any business cards. I don't know how much I'm going to charge. I don't know the program I'd do with this guy. That wasn't important. What was important was that I decided I was a sales trainer. That was all that was important. I decided I was a sales trainer. And I got the gig. I made $125 an hour being a sales trainer. It was really cool. And I learned a really important lesson then, is that you're the one that decides what you are. No one else does. This almost goes back a little bit to the idea that one could have, certain certifications in the industry. And there's nothing wrong with certifications. I've never really found a need for them. I tell people I'm a senior level developer. And therefore I'm a senior level developer. Okay, good. All right, excellent. And then it's up to me to make that right and true by doing whatever it takes on the job to figure something out. Okay, all right, so I'll do that. And then some of you may listen to that and go, well, that's airy-fairy and whatever, okay? That's not down-to-earth and pragmatic or however you want. Some of you may go, wow, that makes a lot of sense. It's what works for me. But the same thing, to come full circle back to your question about what business card, make a business card that says you're a software developer. Because you are. You are. Could any one of you who's gotten through the HTML, CSS course help a business owner with tweaks on their HTML and CSS to make their site look better? Then you're a software developer. We had a guy about last year that came through that he studied from home a little bit. So he did the first 2 courses, right? Computer basics and then and WordPress. And then he comes in. So the first time I saw him, he'd been in the school about 2 weeks, right? And I see him 3 days later after introducing myself, and he says, oh, I got a job. You got a job? Well, he went to a local meetup. He went to the Chamber of Commerce for out near Happy Valley or Milwaukee or some on the east side, right? And he just struck up a conversation with the lady that runs the Chamber of Commerce, and she said, well, what do you do? And he says, I'm realizing now it's kind of close to what I did. He said, well, I'm a software developer. I'm a junior software developer. She said, oh, really? And then he started, telling her about, I'm going to school for it and everything. And she said, oh, well, and she just instantly starts telling him about these changes that we made to their website, and he's thinking, the more he's listening, he's going, this is just HTML and CSS. She doesn't need anything in terms of databases, which I don't really know about yet. All she needs is HTML. Yes, I can do that. So he's making $15 an hour. He can do the work fully remotely from his house, and he can do it in the evenings after he gets done going to school, right? Why? Because he was brave enough to say, oh yeah, I'm a software developer, right? So I think he paid for a lot of his school that way by doing it. Like, well done, dude. So there's your answer to the question. Just make a business card that says you're a software developer.
Are you going to website?
Good, exactly. Good. Other questions? Anything coming over the Okay, good. That's fine. Anybody else got anything? Okay, good. All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Bye. Cool.
I didn't hear you sit there, but I smelled the coffee.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's a good question. I hadn't had anybody ask that before. It's a totally fair question. Like, wait, I want to hand something out. What do I hand out?
I mean, what I have now is what I'm doing right now. So
Right.
It's not, but
Yeah. And then there's a whole story about it. Well, no, just
Exactly.
hand one out.
Well, I got a domain name and I set up my Gmail as I'm my business owner. So
That's
I'm
great.
already independent contractor for other things. So
Yeah.
for doing like admin support stuff. So
Right.
yeah, it's totally going to be transitioning.
That is great.
The best part I ever saw for a junior developer was on the front side of it, it was, fairly well laid out, just very simple.
Right.
Sort of on the back side, it was the same card, but HTML tags and everything.
Oh, that's neat.
I love that.
That's really cool.
I may borrow that.
Steal that. That's a great idea.
I've been waiting to do it myself.
Do
but
it.
That's
I
really
ordered
neat.
like in XML or something.
Get it ordered.
Oh, no, I don't order them, just like freelancer.com. Okay, strong tags and everything.
Anything that basically deals with the lowest common denominator, the lowest bidder, that kind of thing, I want to have nothing to do with it. And part of the reason why is that the client you're going to get on the other end, that's what kind of client would go to. client that actually doesn't know the value of the software. Like I see these ads, and they're perfectly legitimate.